He's Josh.
And she's Jazz.
And you just tuned into The Conversation.
So Jazz, we are officially back. The conversation is back.
Yes,
And,
we are. We've been out of the game for a while, actually.
Yes, we have. But you can see we're starting it in a big way.
Right.
We're here at City Hall,
where we just got an interview with Mayor C Wharton.
So check out this interview with the Memphis Mayor. We are here with the Mayor of Memphis, C Wharton. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to interview with us on our little show here, called Conversation.
That's a great show. It's not a little show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Jasmine, Josh, thanks for letting me chat with you, man.
Oh, thank you. So, well, I guess we'll get right into it. I just wanted to ask you, first and foremost, outside of Mayor C Wharton, what is something that we don't know about you?
Probably, since she's only been here 3 weeks, you don't know that the Wharton family finally has a girl in the family. All my six boys, then 2 grandsons, and finally we have a girl, a granddaughter. And guess what? Since all the other boys had AC as their name, she got stuck with it too. So she is an AC, but it's Alexandria Camille Wharton. She is the daughter of Latoya and Alex Wharton, my son. Now, not many people know that. You heard it first on, is it the Josh and Jasmine, or the Jasmine and Josh, or J&J show?
The conversation.
There we go, yes. J&J. No, that's one of the things, but probably that I have a lot of faith, but I don't wear my religion on my shoulder. You don't just hear me just, I'm faith, I'm good, I'm religious. It's only through that I can remain calm and determined in the really heated environment, the crucible in which I have to work here. But again, I don't advertise that. I think you don't have to advertise your faith. I think it will show through.
Right.
I'm always a little leery of people who have to go around advertising what they're about religiously.
Okay, I want to take the personal side a little bit further back. As a kid, what motivated you to go into public service? Because I read that you actually, when you first were going to college, that you were interested in veterinary science or veterinary medicine.
Right.
So how did you make that switch? How did that come about?
There's a life lesson there. For me to say, ever since I was a child, I wanted to be a judge or lawyer, I did not. Simply because, to me, back then, as a little black kid growing up, in which there were no black people as lawyers, judges, doctors, and all that kind of stuff, you aspired to have a good tractor or a good pickup truck, or to get a good construction job, because those were good and decent things, and maybe thought of running a grocery store like my daddy did. And what happened, and there's a real lesson here, in that you as college students never know when you're serving as a role model. I hadn't really thought about college up until perhaps my junior or senior year in high school. Because, again, I had 2 older sisters. And back then, if you had 2 older sisters, there was some expectation that black girls would go to college because they could become a teacher, and that was it. There wasn't much a black boy could do. Rarely you would see as a teacher a black man. But in my junior or senior year, the Tennessee State University sent 2 young male blacks up to Wilson County training school. By the way, it was a training school, not a high school, to do student teaching. And I'll never forget the day I was talking to them in the library study period one time, and one of them said, "What are you going to do?" And I told them about the job I was going to get in my neighborhood, in my little town there, making $1 an hour, which was just an atrociously high amount of money at that time. Can you think about that? $40 a week. I was going to be one of the richest people in Wilson County. And he said, "What? You're not So they started in on me right away. The next day they came up from Nashville. They brought applications to college, and I started thinking about it. They saw my grades. See, I was salutatorian of my class. I had good grades. And they just said, "You've got to travel." So I kind of thought about it, and they told me about these different places. And since Wilson County was an agricultural place, we always had livestock. I started thinking about veterinary science at Tuskegee, which is one of the few places, if not the only place, a black child could go to wanted to become a vet. But I had a very poor science background, and additionally, I needed $600 to get to Tuskegee, and that's a ton of money. And I just couldn't get there. My high school principal heard that I was trying to get off to college, and he managed to get me a scholarship to Tennessee State. I still was thinking about something in medicine, but again, my entrance tests were horrible in the science and math area because we didn't have that in my school. So it was horrible. So I saw it was going to be extremely difficult to get into anything science-based. The life lesson there, and every time I make a speech to young folks, I tell them about the 5 Ds of life. It all starts with a dream, then it goes to desire, then it goes to drive, then it goes to determination, and you have to be willing to take the detours in life. But if you have the dream, if you've got the desire, the drive, and the determination, you'll reach your destination, but you might have to take some detours. I had to take a big detour, but I didn't cancel my trip to success. I had to take the detour away from Tuskegee, away from veterinary medicine, and take the little country road down to political science and something else. So the life lesson that I always say to young folks is that don't get deterred by detours. You're going to have some detours in life. But when I'm speaking to elementary kids and I say to them, "You ever go on a trip somewhere with grandma or grandpa?" "Yeah." "Do you ever come up on a sign where grandpa says, 'Uh-oh, can't get through'?" And I ask them, "What does the sign say?" And most of the time they'll say danger, but then one will say detour. And I say, now when grandpa sees a sign saying detour, does grandpa just say, "Uh-oh, trip's over, we're going back home"? No! What does grandpa do? Gets on another road, gets on another street. And I said, that's the way life is. So, to go back to your question, my life story is not one in which I knew ever since I started walking I wanted to be a lawyer or a judge or be in public service. That's not true. But it ends up I'm here and I'm thankful for it.
So when you took that detour into public service and your family found out that you were going into public service, what did they think? How were they?
Well, I became a lawyer,
Right.
Which back home folks were generally suspicious of lawyers. But then I had a triple sin. I became a lawyer, then I became a criminal defense lawyer, second sin, and then I became a public defender criminal defense lawyer. The feeling back then is lawyers would trick you, and then criminal lawyers were real bad because they represented these folks and we know they did it. But a public defender was just the worst because public defender is the guy who defends the guy who broke in your house last night and stole your purse and then turns around and tells you you got to pay him with this guy who just robbed you last night. So my mother didn't care too much for that. So I always say that I got out of being a criminal defense lawyer and got into something honest and became a politician to satisfy my mother. See, she always compared it with my brother, who is a doctor. And the best doctor in the world are the ones who wear those white coats and little babies. And he was OBGYN, so everybody loves OBGYNs.
Right.
They tell you, it's a girl.
Yeah.
It's a boy. That's a pretty baby. Although it might not be true. But all babies are pretty.
Yes.
But in any event, she's adjusted to it now. My mother supports me. My whole family supports me. But they didn't care too much for all that criminal law stuff at first.
All right. So,
Of course. Oh.
you want to go ahead?
Okay. Well, I read that you were a member of Alpha Phi Alpha
Yes.
as well. Is that still a big part of Mayor A.C. Wharton?
The tenets of the fraternity are scholarship and all of that. The need to help others along the way, friendly deeds, and that is a big part of me. As far as being, oh yes, I'm at the frat meeting every Tuesday night. I just have to tell the truth. My dear brothers, I'm going to straighten up one of these days. I pay my dues though. But what the fraternity stands for, yes.
Right.
Am I there every meeting? No. And it's understandable. They forgive me for that.
Oh, I'm
But
sure.
and the whole idea of joining any group is not so much of wearing the regalia
Right.
or chanting a slogan, but do you live by what your fraternity
Standing
or
for.
sorority
Yes.
stands
Principles.
for? So yes, in that, yes, it is a big part.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
All right. So after you were a public defender, you eventually wound up as mayor of Shelby County, and you were that for 7 years. And then after Shelby County, you wound up here in Memphis. So now you're the mayor of Memphis. How do you balance your political life and your personal life? Is it very difficult to balance?
It is, and for anybody to tell you otherwise, well, in my opinion, it's just not true. Well, maybe other people are not consumed and as passionate about this position and the service it requires as I am. It's basically 7 days a week. But you have to. Fortunately, I have a very strong wife who insists Thursday nights are family nights, dinner, religious on Sundays. But you have to discipline yourself. It's only through a strong family life, quite frankly, in my situation, can you really make it, because it's cold out here, and if you don't have a supportive family, in my case I've had children and grandchildren, when you see them you're constantly looking at the future, and when you look at them and you have the headaches and the pain of the blows that you've taken, when you look down, as I did last night at my 3-week-old granddaughter, and just said, well, you know, it's rough on me, but it's going to be much better for her because I'm doing it. That load just evaporates. And so that helps you balance your life. And even if someone, let me make this clear, I'm not saying that, oh, you have to be married to make it. But we as individuals are gregarious. We're tribal. We have we need people around us. Now, what that relationship should be, but you cannot make it in a job like this alone if you don't have somebody whom you can confide in and who share your joy with you, share your pain with you, all of those things, and that's what my family does for me.
Next question.
I think we should hop into the viewers' questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
please go
right.
ahead.
Okay. So some of our viewers did chime in once they found out that we were talking to Mayor A.C. Wharton, and it goes off into the political realm, of course.
That's fine. That's fine.
All right. One of our viewers, Brittany Fitzpatrick, she tweeted that the child poverty rate in Memphis is double the national rate. The national rate is 18%, and here it's 36%. She wanted to know, what were you doing to change that? Because recently, not only for child poverty, I saw Commercial Appeal recently put out an article where the city was one of the The poorest in the nation. So
It's the metro area.
Yeah,
So,
I was going to correct.
so
And that's why we're here to ask, to address it.
Sure.
yeah.
Let me take you first with respect. Well, I'm going to take your last statement first. By any measurement, we have too much poverty in this city and in this county, by any measurement. But the story that you read is a little misleading. The correct version appears in the September 27th edition of the New York Times. To be entirely correct, the poorest city is Reading, Pennsylvania. Now, the poorest metropolitan statistical area, which includes areas outside the city of Memphis and includes other areas in Arkansas and Mississippi, which have, and other counties in Tennessee, which have extreme poverty. That all got blended in. So I just wanted to be entirely accurate, and you in journalism will appreciate that.
Right.
But again, that is not to excuse anything, because even if we were 8th, that's still too much. Even if we were 16th, that's too much. Now, the question is, and by the way, this has been my philosophy, the measure of a city is not how many bad conditions it has. The true measure is, but what are you doing about it? And that's where we come. That's where I would like to begin to answer your question. Childhood poverty. One of the greatest causes of childhood poverty is young women, high school students, having children while they are still students, while they're still teenagers. Overwhelmingly, they're going to drop out of school. Overwhelmingly, in many instances, the babies will be low birth weight babies, have physical difficulties and disabilities. The studies show clearly that once a young lady has a baby, I don't care how many programs we work on, we're trying to change it, pretty much her education is over. And it's hard now to get a good job even with a community college attainment. If you don't even have high school, you're pretty well locked into poverty. And if the young mother becomes locked in, her children will become locked in. So one of the things we're doing is working with the girls clubs of Memphis in the No Baby, No Way, just campaign to work on that in some of our schools here. That's one of the key things we have to do. And the other is a network of quality early childhood daycare centers, Head Start programs. The studies show that the most important years in a child's development intellectually is 0 to 3, not after he or she gets to school. So while I was county mayor, we worked to have a number of our daycare centers certified by NACE, that's the accreditation agency. So stopping the teen births and having a good network of early childhood daycare, Head Start programs to get those children off to a good start. And what that means is that if mom knows that her child is going to be fed well, cared for, she can get out, get job training, and get a job and help pull her way and her child out of poverty. And we do that through the WIN program. We're doing that in terms of job prep. We have special programs for ex-offenders. Some of these mothers are ex-offenders to get them gainfully employed.
So with your recent cutting city employee salaries, what will you have to say to your critics?
That the alternative would have been to fire between 450 and 500 employees. Listen, cutting 4.6 or even 2% is horrible, but I had a choice. There was no easy way to do it, but here was my thinking, and the council went along with it, that it's better for us all to sacrifice some, including the top. Keep in mind, we cut top salaries last year, but we didn't cut the other employees. Because if we keep you on the payroll, even at a reduced salary, you still have your benefits, your insurance. And then when the city gets in a stronger position financially, we can make it up to you. But if I fire you, which we were going to have to do, I can't send you a check a year later, 6 months later, because you're no longer a city employee. But if you're in the house, so to speak, and when things start turning around, I might be able to give you, all right, here's 1% of it back, here's 2% of it back, and you still have your pension, you still have your insurance. Not having health insurance will break a family entirely. I don't care what kind of savings they have. So that was the key thing. And I just say to them, I look them right in the face and say, look, as soon as we turn this around, you're going to start getting that money back.
Okay. All right. And lastly, to our Memphis viewers, who I'm sure that the question that they all have in their mind, why should Mayor A.C. Wharton be reelected? Go ahead and tell the Memphis viewers.
Well, you just have to look. Keep in mind, I haven't been here 4 years. Many people think it's 4 years because we've done so much. And I said we, because it wasn't me alone. I keep going back to your poverty question. Best way out of poverty is a job. And it's not just some mirage or dream that we're having. We've actually signed up for jobs. I mean, hundreds, thousands of jobs that we're bringing in here in a very short time. We've cleaned up the youth summer job program. We have children in a year-round program called the Ambassadors. We've cleaned up some of the corrupt areas in city government. We have plans to clean up the blight in our community. We've shown that we can be compassionate. The eyes of the world looked at Memphis, Tennessee 1 year and a half or so ago when we had that sub-zero temperature. And I asked the light, gas, and water folks, are there any folks out there who don't have the utility? They said, yep. I said, not while I'm here. And we turned them back on. Same thing we did in the heat. So all in all, I think I know I've been a well-rounded mayor. I've kept my promise. Crime is heading down. We're training workers. We're doing what we said we would do. And when someone does what he or she tells you they're going to do, why change horses in midstream?
All right, thank you so much, Mayor. We really appreciate
Josh, thank you. It was an honor. I'm
Thank
so
you
proud
so
of the two of you, Jasmine. You've got a great future, and I urge you to stay on that track to success. And remember, if you have to take a detour, do it, but get up and keep on going.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning into this edition of The Conversation.
And to access this interview and more, please check us out at www.theconversation.weebly.com.
Or you can access us on your iPads or iPhones.
Or any other source you have to reaching the internet.
All right, and for The Conversation, I'm Joshua Bogan.
And I'm Jasmine Van.
Thanks so much for watching.